Hello and welcome everybody. So today we are talking about the Ossiarch Bonereapers of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. The faction that I wanted to start with into Age of Sigmar, but right after I got my army, they updated or rather overhauled the entire faction. So today we are talking about these updates, what they called them, but that is really just an entire reprint of the faction because they changed so much. But let's talk about this when we get there. And for now, let's focus on what the Bonereapers even are, in case you don't know. Warhammer Age of Sigmar is basically a tabletop Warhammer miniature game, and the Bonereapers are a faction inside of this game with quite a big lore. They are basically an army of skeletons which resemble a part of Roman culture and samurai culture, and I very much started into them because I wanted the skeleton samurai army on my table. One of the big undead factions of the game, I think from a style point one of the best looking ones. The problem is that the recent update really changed a lot about them. So let's check out what I was planning to do first and why this is no longer working at all with the new rule set. Alright, and in order to do so, we're using the army list builder on New Recruit EU. You'll find the link down in the description because this site really helps a lot with building an army. So as you can see, we got 3 lists prepared. I made them quite a while ago, but I just didn't find the time for this video. Alright, so we are starting with what I planned to do, because that is no longer possible. Alright, so we got some, I think it's 3 regiments. It's based around Catacross, obviously, because he was a really big thing back in the day. Which came with some stuff like the auras, like every command for a unit within 18 inch is quite a big deal. And before you had to select a unit and it got an aura, and the aura was just 12 inch around this unit, but if you give the aura to Catacross, you basically got a massive range and almost everyone was within. And obviously he also gave the +1 to save rolls within the 18 inch again. So if you just had this centerpiece in the middle of the game, every single unit was way more robust and also had the benefits from the discipline points, which we get to in a little bit. So this is basically Catacross in the back days. It is still an expensive unit at 520, but I think they even made it a little bit cheaper now, but that doesn't help. So we got Arch Cavaliers, Leech Cavaliers, we get to them in a bit. We got some cavalry, and I just realized it's 2 regiments, okay. We got a Mortison Soul Mason to cover our wizards, and 3 Immortus Guard that were supposed to stay around the Soul Mason and Catacross, while the cavalry does all the job. So we got the Leech Cavaliers, which was a very important centerpiece of my army because of the Load of Saturation, which basically says this unit has what, 5? So it's very sturdy. And the Aura of Sterility, which was even more important and broken because you subtract 1 from wound rolls for shooting attacks that target friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers. So that means that while you got Catacross on the field, all of your units get +1 to save rolls, and while each Cavaliers is nearby, every single hit is reduced by 1 as well from targeted range attacks from enemies. That makes your units so much harder to be hit, so much harder to be killed. And let's be honest, the Cavaliers Death Riders are kind of squishy because they only got a save of 4. So the Catacross +1 makes it a 3, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we lost a lot of stuff. in the recent update because the updates load of saturation and aura of sterility are no more. They are gone. Catacross lost a lot of his stuff, even the auras. There is no more warding increase and anything. Now let's look at the Death Riders. They have recently been reduced by 50 points, but that is not helping at all because they lost so much more. So back in the days, we had charge, we had crit to hit, and most importantly, we had the ability Unstoppable Charge, which is no more. They tried to rebuild some of it into the Death Rider Wretch, but it's not the same, and it's so much worse. So let's look at it what it is back in the days. Declare this unit charge to this phase. Pick an enemy infantry unit, that's important. Most of the heroes and stuff are usually infantry, so that is kind of powerful, but must have been cast across to be the target. That means if you made a move and you made a charge and this round you went over the enemy, then you can activate this power. The effect is roll a d3 on to plus inflict an amount of mortal damage to the target equal to the roll. So if you roll, let's say you make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you just need to roll anything above a 3, and then you can inflict damage. That is kinda good. The problem is it is gone. It is not entirely gone, but the principle of it is gone. So for the spells, we got the Law of Ossian Sorcery, which got one of the most powerful spells, which is Drain Vitality, which basically just reduces the enemy that is targeted by a lot. So it is having a harder time to save, it is having a much harder time to hit. It is just a crit really, so that is good. And I just realized that I never said the manifestation law, but usually we just used the horrors of the necropolis, which is a bunch of summonable manifestations that are a little bit like pets that you can summon and then move around on the field, and if they are killed you can try to resummon them. It is kinda handy, but most of them are just really some extra units that act on their own and stuff, so yeah. And for new players, it's usually recommended that they start with the horrors of the necropolis, but honestly I don't think that it's good. Anyways, let's look at the new stuff. And for this we are going back to our lists over here. And I think we go to the Bone Corrosion list, which is the biggest one. I love this list. Alright, you already see we got rid of Catacross. And we did it because Catacross, in my opinion, is not doing the same that he managed to do in the past. Let me just get rid of Archon really quick. Okay, now we got the heroes back on the left. And we are looking at Catacross. Where is he? There he is. So before the Relentless Discipline was basically just every single phase you got to pick units, and the units got an extra ability for free. And now you don't have this anymore, you just have to pick one unit of your heroes, and then you get discipline points, and Catacross makes 10 points. And these points are basically in your bank account for the rest of the turn, and you will have to spend them on updates. And as you can see already, the new Catacross spreadsheet is a lot shorter than the last, because he has lost a lot of stuff. And one of the biggest things is that he lost his 18-inch aura, where he was just giving every Bone Reaper inside of the aura extra benefit, which resulted in a +1 to all of the saving rolls. And now we got the Supreme Lord of the Bone Reaper Legion's ability, which basically says that if he is not fighting but one of your other units is fighting, which has not used a relentless discipline ability yet. That is important. Then this unit can make a second attack, but you have to spend a number of relentless discipline points. And here comes the crux, equal to the target's health characteristic. So the Bonereapers usually start around 3 to 5 health. If you don't look at the Mortec guard, which I think is one of the most useless. So really you are looking at spending at least 3 to 5 points of your 10, which already depletes your entire bank account by half, which is a lot. And considering that Catacross himself only got 4-inch movement speed, you would usually use one of the abilities or discipline points for his movement as well. So if you are using Catacross, you are already looking at minimum of 4 to 6 points that you'll always have to spend. And since he's so slow, he really rarely is inside of battle himself. That means all of these battle stats you are usually not getting anything of. And that makes his Strike Twice ability so much worse because you have to pay for this with your sacred points. And it is really just replacing his own attack because he doesn't make it to where you need him to be. Alright, this is why I think in modern games Catacross is actually dead. And this is why I think we are looking at the return of the wizards. Let me just find him. Where is he? Gosh dang it. There he is, Archon the Black. And he is supported by Leech Cavalos. Alright, now this is the original list before I entered the Catacross inside. And it's built around Nagash, the Supreme Lord of the Undead, and is supported by Archon the Black. He got Leech Cavalos, he got Arch Cavalos, and we are looking at 2 units of 5 Death Riders. That is not much units, but they all do what they need to do. So let's look at the Death Riders first. As I said, they got a drop of 50 points, which is not enough, because as you can see, they lost the critical hits, they lost the charge ability, they lost almost everything. And they also got an overwork of the Death Rider Wedge, which is basically now if the unit charged its turn, pick an enemy unit in combat with this one to be the target. And then you can pick a friendly Leech Cavalos within this unit's combat range to be the target. And then you'll inflict, always inflict, D3 mortal damage on the enemy target. And another D3 if there is Arch Cavalos, the friendly Leech Cavalos inside of the range. And after this unit and the Leech Cavalos can make a move of 10-inch, but the Leech Cavalos actually boosts this up to 12. So they can make a 12-inch move backwards or either way through the combat ranges of the enemy units. But they cannot end the move inside of combat. So instead of rolling dice, you just get 2 times D3 damage. That sounds really bad, but we get back to this later because I found a way to abuse this pretty much. Alright, let's take a look at Nagash because he's the new leader of my unit. So I have chosen him because obviously he's very sturdy. He got a save of 3 instead of 4, 18 health. He got a lot of movement speed, solid melee attack, but what is really important is that he got the invocation of Nagash, and he is a Wizard 9. Wizard 9 means that he can use 9 spells every turn. Since he's really good at casting spells, you can add 2 on the casting rolls. So Most of the spells need to be casted, and in order to cast them, you roll a bunch of dice, usually 2, and you need to meet the casting value. And Shunsei is just adding 2 to everything you roll. That means you don't have to fight for the 7, you just need to roll a 5. He barely misses, to be honest. And the spell says you can cast this spell more than once a phase, so you can basically just rapid fire and spam the spell. Pick a visible unit within 18 inches, and it's not even saying an enemy or a friendly unit, it is just any unit. It just needs to be inside of 18 inch. So this unit must not have been picked as a target before of the spell. That means you can't just spam the spell on the same unit, you have to basically spread the damage around. But what is the spell doing? It is either damaging enemy units by D3 damage, or if it's a friendly unit you can pick one of these. The friendly unit got ward 5 at this turn, so instead of warding at 6 you have a chance of 30% to just negate damage, which is quite of a big deal. Or you can return a number of slain models at the combined health characteristic of up to 3. So as I said, most of the units got health between 1 and 5. And obviously you cannot resurrect a unit with 5, but you can get back, for example, 3 units of Vortec Guard or the new arched units, or you can get 1 Death Rider back. Alright, so there's another really big deal about Nagash. You can once per battle over here in the hero phase use the ability Supreme Lord of the Undead. And the effect of this spell or ability is basically you can pick a friendly, non-hero, non-unique unit. That is quite the word to say. That has been destroyed to be the target. So if the enemy, for example, destroyed one of your Death Riders, you can pick that as a target. And you can set up a replacement unit identical to the target, only within 12 inches. And more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. So that basically means that if we lose one of our cavalry, once per battle we can get back an entirely new unit of cavalry of 5 units again. That is pretty big, but he's also very expensive. Now, why do we take Nagash if he's so expensive? Because he's cool attack. Now, because he's got a lot of damage output, and he also got a lot of fanny spells that are really good to use. And with the Archon the Black, which is our secondary in lead, he got 12-inch movement, which is even bigger, also 3 on saves, 14 health. He's really just a little Nagash. But he got different abilities. So we are looking at Curse of the Years. We need 7 casting value, but because he got the Staff of the Spirits, which adds 1 to casting again, this is basically just a 6. Which again, this is just a little Nagash. And this ability is pretty close to Nagash's damage ability, but instead of just giving D3 damage, and this is more like a really random thing where you roll 10 dice, and for every 6 you roll you get 1 withering point, and the withering point later just translate into mortal wounds again. But if you get more than 8 of them, the enemy is just dead. Sounds great, but let's be real, in reality you don't get 8 points. Usually, so after this, after you got 6, you can re-roll 1 die for every 6, and on every 5 you get another point. Then you re-roll any 5 and higher, and for every of these you get another point. You re-roll for every 4 or higher, and you get another point. So this is summing up, but let's be honest. Getting the 6, then getting the 5 on the extra dice, then getting a 4 on the extra dice, it's pretty hard to get. So most of the time you're just looking at maybe an average of 1 to 3 damage. That is being realistic. He got Relentless Discipline 3 only, so he's not good for generation. And the Gash is also pretty bad for generation of discipline points, even though he is the big leader of the undead. But as a wizard, he only got 3 of them. So let's go back to the Arcan really quick, because he's a wizard level 3, so he can cast 3 spells every turn. And this is definitely just one of them, the Curse of the Years. Alright, that means we got at least 2 spells left. This time we did not go with the usual spells of the Ossiarchs. We are using this one over here, the Law of Necrotardy, or whatever it's called. Because I really love the Soul Claim. And the Soul Claim is a casting value of 5, again on 2d6. So considering that all of our wizards got really good casting, it is almost a given. And it reads pretty much like Nagash's attack, but this time you get 2 in 1. You can inflict d3 mortal damage on the enemy, and if any of the models of the target unit have been killed, you can pick one of the following effects on one of your friendly units within 12 inches of the wizard. And you can either heal 3 of the friendly target, or you can return a number of slain models, again up to the health characteristic of 3. So this is basically just a free heal or a free resurrection. If the enemy is using some blobs of 1 health minis, you target the unit, you get 1 kill, you get 1 Death Rider or 3 Mortec guards back. This is absolutely broken. And I love it. Alright, we got another spell over here, but I didn't even read it, to be honest, because what we really want to do this one as well, I don't care, to be honest. Ignore the first damage point per turn. Yeah, that is pretty nonsense. Because we got so much healing that our units just keep coming back. Okay, let's talk about the manifestation lore. As you can see, I left the horrors of the necropolis this time, and instead we went with a morbid conjuration. And this is because morbid conjuration is adding even more mortal wounds to what we are already doing. We get 4 different manifestations, and some of them are just absolutely broken. So let's look at them one by one. We got the Purple Sun of Shyish. If there's no Purple Sun, obviously you can make the cast and summon it, and let's just see. There we go. A movement of 8. It got a melee weapon, but most of the time we don't need it. It got ward save, it got the end given form. The manifestation can move up the distance to its move characteristic, so 8 inch. It can pass through models during the move, but cannot end the move in a combat, so you basically start in front of the enemy and end the turn behind the enemy, and then you can pick up to 3 enemy units that the manifestation crossed over to be the targets, and then you roll d3 for each target, and on plus 2 plus inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll, so you can inflict d3 on up to 3 enemy units, which is kind of great. Malevolent Maystorm, which is over here. No, it's not. Which is over here. So we got again movement of 8 inch, and this time we got a different effect, the Necrotic Vortex. So give this manifestation 1 Maelstrom point each time the manifestation is set up, so it is instantly starting with 1. Then a unit successfully casts a spell within 12 inch of the manifestation, which is great because we can basically do 12 spells each turn. And then a model is slain within 12 inch of the manifestation, which again is great because we can kill a lot of units. And if this manifestation gets Maelstrom points, you can only get 6 at once. And then we got the morbid detonation, which is absolutely fun. So if this unit got 6 Maelstrom points, it basically turns into a grenade. And you pick each unit, so a friendly and enemy, within 9 inch of this, which is a massive unit range. So every single unit within 9 inch of this unit. So roll a dice for each target. A dice, that is a d6 from 1 to 6. And on everything that is 2 or larger, you inflict an amount of mortal wounds on the target equal to the roll. So basically, if you manage to get in this pretty close to the enemy army, then you can almost inflict damage equal to the roll, so up to 6 to every single enemy unit. That is broken as hell, and we can cast this every single turn. And it's guaranteed to be full on 6 Maelstrom points every single turn. It's guaranteed, just from the smells alone. Okay. We also got the Soul Slayer Shackles. Let's see, that is this one. So the Soul Slayer Shackles are, I think it's 3 miniatures. They got multiple parts, but they share the damage between them, and if the shared damage is over 6, it's destroyed. So they got bound for the Great Obliat. Declare each. For each part of this manifestation, you can pick an enemy unit to be the target. You cannot pick the same unit twice again. Basically, you roll d3 again, and on every 2 or beyond, inflict damage equal to the roll again. So on average, 2 or 3 damage again. Subtract a number of inches equal to the roll from the target's move characteristic. So that means you got 3 minis that each of them can inflict potentially anything between 2 or 3 wounds if you are rolling okay. And the enemy is also slowed down, which is huge. And at last we got the Suffocating Gravetide. What a name. Okay, the Gravetide got a movement of 12 inch. It can fly, which is kind of crazy because it's a wave tide. But let's see. We got pulled to the grave. The manifestation can move a distance to its movement characteristic, so 12 inch. It can pass through models during the move, but it cannot end in combat. Sounds familiar, we get it. Then you can pick an enemy unit that we moved across again, but this time it's only 1, and that's all we need because we roll a dice for each model in the unit, and for every 5 or higher, we inflict 1 mortal damage. This can quickly sum up massively. For a 5 plus, that is basically 30% on every single roll. Now imagine if the enemy is using really big blobs. For 5 minis, that is 1 or 2 death. For a unit made of 10 models, that is instantly a minimum of 2, a maximum of 4. The biggest benefit is coming from a reinforced unit, because if you manage to move over one of these blobs, you are easily looking at 30% damage again. That makes, I think it's about 4 to 8, 4 to 8 deaths instantly. That's crazy. Obviously, in most of these things you want to high roll, but I think the morbid conjuration is just crazy. Alright, I've been talking a bit about it, now let's look at it in general. We got the Gash, we got Arch Cavalos, we got Death Riders 2x5. Because again, we are not looking at the attacking dice, we are looking at the wedge, which is just riding in, riding out, dealing damage. And in order to do so, we got the Arch Cavalos because he got a new ability that if he is within range of enemies and inside of combat, every single enemy is getting strike last for the end of the turn, for the rest of the turn, which is kind of a big deal. Right. Also, the Arch Cavalos is giving us Relentless Discipline 7, and the Leech Cavalos is giving us Relentless Discipline 6. Again, we would have gotten 10 from Kratikos, but Kratikos already eats up half of the points, so we got a 6 to 7 to spend freely, which is actually even more than we would have had with the Kratikos himself. Now let's look at the unit updates that we can use on the Leech Cavalos. I'm kind of between the seats between the Amulet of Gnosis and the Shard of the Necklace. That kind of depends if the Death Rider Wedge is actually counting as a retreat action, and if it doesn't, then we are using the Shard of the Necklace because it just keeps our unit alive for much longer. And we need this unit to deal damage. So for the emblements of the Tithe Reapers, what a word, oh my gosh. And for this one, we are going with Manufactured Minds, which is basically saying that during the Immortal Elite phase, which is select a hero and then you get the discipline points, you can select a dead one. This is important because we are most likely losing the Arch Cavalos in the first 2 rounds. And once he's dead, we would be down to 6. But with the Manufactured Mind, we are back up to 7. Because the Arch Cavalos got 7 and the Leech just got 6 Relentless Discipline. Alright, so the discipline basically is spent on giving everything in our army either more speed or just a bigger ward, but honestly, most of the time, we just want the discipline points for the ward and not the speed, because every single thing in the list at least got a speed of 10, which is plenty. So I got a little summary for this. My ideas for this list is either this one. It's a more defensive one, the Bonereapers in 2026. Nagash as the general, the Arch Cavalos, Leech Cavalos. We got 4x5 Death Riders for more of the wedging. This time we don't have Archon. We do have the Soul Mason instead, which is a downgrade, but it allows us to get more Death Riders. And the reason for this is that now we can give the Manufactured Mind from the Leech Cavalos over to the Soul Mason and protect ourselves a bit better from losing most of our discipline points in case both of our cavalry leaders are dying. So this is a more defensive formation. We are using the Twilight Sorceries because we can set up this light wall and none of the enemy units can make range attacks that are crossing the line through this line of light, which is pretty insane. But again, this is not what I would play. I would play this one. This is the more offensive one with the abilities that I just showed you guys. It only got 2 of the Death Riders, but it got Archon the Black, which is quite of a big update compared to the Soul Mason. And this is basically a unit that delivers at least 20 to 40 mortal wounds every round, and most of them can be centered around really big targets, hero enemies, and stuff like that. And this is basically what the entire idea is about. We are trying to get rid of the enemy's heroes, we are trying to get rid of key units, and we try to make use of the morbid conjuration to explode our maelstrom in over the entire enemy army. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. I think it's a pretty solid list. I think most of the recent lists that people use still are centered around Catacross. And honestly, from the feedback that I've heard so far, a lot of them are losing at the moment. Because a lot of them are just trying to use the Vortex Triaxes, which are new units, but they are super slow. They are trying to use the gimmicks that prevent healing instead of just getting out a lot of damage. They heal pretty little. They do only 1 damage each. So yeah, that's not really good. The range is 18 as well, which is good, but you have to go through the hits, you have to go through the wounds, you have to go through the enemy saving rolls and the wards. So at the end of the day, just spreading out mortal wounds is a lot more beneficial, I think, because you skip all of this. So we got a few new units, but I'm not sure how well they are doing. We got the Legion Mortec at 120 points, which is insanely cheap. But he only got a movement of 5, which is super slow. We got Relentless Discipline of 5, which is really little. So you can't really use him as a single hero, since most of the wizards only got 3. Most of the stuff only works on the Vortex, so you have to bring some of the cheapest and weakest units in the game just to get some benefits from this guy, I don't know. Another unit obviously is the Mortec Triaxes. So next we got the update on the Immortus Guard. The Immortus Guard lost the ability to give heroes the better warding, which kind of sucks, but they at least still got the better damage. So most of the time you definitely want to use the Immortus Guard over the Stalkers. And talking about the Stalkers, they lost some of their abilities as well. They no longer have the once per phase you get one of the bonuses. Instead, they just got a fixed ability and they only deal 1 damage each, which is even worse than the Immortus Guard. So most of the people just wanna go with the Immortus Guard, or maybe even the Archai or the Harbingers, which are really expensive. I think most of the decks or most of the lists recently try something like Catacross and Archai unit, because then they can just move the Archai in and get the double attack. But if the Archai are dead, you're pretty much screwed. You got the Garthisa Harvester, which got an update, which is pretty good because now it's just full or empty. Instead of collecting points, using points, now you can just go between it's full, it's empty, and if it's full, you can get 1 unit back in one of your still alive units. Alright, we got a lot of chariot stuff. The chariots, they kinda got the stuff that the cavalry had before. If the unit charged this turn, pick an enemy unit in combat, inflict D3 mortal damage. So basically just the same what we had on the cavalry before, what they removed for some reason. I have no idea why. And then you can just remove the unit from the battlefield and set it back up within 1 inch of the target. Alright. And we also got the spinning attacks, but really just roll a dice on a 3+ inflict 1 wound. That is, come on, it's just 1 wound. We are not even talking about it. So yeah, I think if you want to build a modern list around the Ossiarch, then there's probably not really a way around Leech Cavalos, maybe even Arch Cavalos, because they got the big discipline points. We get at least 5 to 20 Death Riders, and then you just try to figure out what to do with the Wizard's bot that is still vacant in your list. Most of the people would probably go with the Soul Mason or the Bone Shaper, but the Bone Shaper also got changed. It's no longer just much of a healing unit, it is more of a Vortex-centered unit by now, which is kind of bad. So it is either Soul Mason or Archon. Not running a wizard is not really an option because you need them. So yeah, I think this list over here, the Return of the Wizards, makes use of most of the updates. And combining this with the Morbid Conjuration, as I said, you look at so many mortal wounds that by the end of the second round, you should be able to have taken out most of the enemy's heroes, key units, and then you just tidy up the rest of the field with the Bone Wave, the cavalry that can attack normally, and even still with the Gash, targeting up to 9 units on the field and just giving out 2 or 3 multi wounds on everything. So let me know what you think about the list, what you think about the updates, the changes, the new rules, and yeah, that's pretty much what I think could work in the future. If you got a different opinion, please feel free to share it, and I will again also share the link to the new recruit page down in the description of the video. Alright, that's all from me for today. I hope you have a great day and see you again. Bye!